Hello, everybody.
What is going on?
It is the day after the Belgian Grand Prix 2025.
Is it
What could have possibly
the
been the
day?
wettest Grand Prix
And the
of the
longest wait.
year. But it failed to live up to that billing, I thought, a little bit, Amar,
Oof.
in the end. Yeah.
I'm down for this overreaction race review, right? I mean, we have teased out a pretty good teaser. I think, Shez, I have to admit, this is your smartest work. You even got a shout out from Dr. Ops for that. Like, this is amazing. Like, guys, come get him. Like all of you that are running big time shows. Like, if Shez is amazing with his race analysis and his Formula One brain, but good God, like this is next level.
I mean, I only did it to annoy you. It seems to
No,
have
I know you
worked.
did, and see what I got for you. Like this is what I'm going to be doing today, like just in honor of you. And let me not show any branding here, but yeah, there you go.
That's okay. What is that, like sparkly water? You're so fancy in California.
No, it is sparkly. Uh, no, sparkling wine
Only the best for
behind.
me. So sparkling.
Well, this is alkaline and enhanced with electrolytes. I've been accused of needing you to make myself sound smarter today. So I'm hoping that this bottle will do the job.
Mate, I all I ever drink is water that's hoovered up from the Belgian Grand Prix every time it's nearly cancelled. They stick
But
it in
this
a,
is where all the electrolytes are
they
literally
just
like.
they just stick it. Yeah, it's full of like Pirelli. Nom, 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 that tastes soft. Oh, where's he gone? Amara's like
Joining
frozen.
us, go find Chez at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and let's hope for I guess a better race. Yeah, I have to admit, I mean, I didn't catch any of this live, so I kind of knew what I needed to do, which is to fast forward through the first 65 minutes of the 3 hour broadcast. So I guess I'm not as
Did
upset
you
as
miss
evidently
that?
many folks
Did
are.
you miss that? Because I mean I have to say I did the same thing, but as I fast forward, there's often like a little like something will come up on screen like a radio message. I'm like, oh my god, I have to listen to what that
Yeah.
person said. And there was a whole segment
No.
where Nico Rosberg was sitting there talking about him and his relationship with Lewis Hamilton, which I thought was quite amusing.
I only read about it and overheard it, so I'll go back and catch that. But as I do now with my Sky F1, what do I want to call it? Semi boycott, right? Like that's what I'm doing right now. Because if Nico's not on there, and evidently if he was on there, I would have really kicked myself.
I think he
But
just
he
gate
went back to
crashed.
Sky Italy,
Well,
no?
no, yeah, he just gate crashed. I think he just turned up in the studio like unannounced, and these two, Crofty and Brundle, were like, we should probably be polite. Like, but Brundle especially is sitting there like, wait a second, isn't it my turn this weekend?
Well, evidently he also reined in on Brundle's grid walk, parade too, didn't he? With the Oscar Verstappen,
He
which
was
I think
so
is the best.
funny. It
It
was
is the
so
best thing.
funny.
It is just, oh my goodness. Yeah. Hell of
Yeah.
a, so you look, man, I did sort of wait a few minutes into the broadcast to kind of see what was going on. But once the drivers got out, I was like, bleep it. Like there's going to be some controversy over this, which lo and behold, there was. And then we got started eventually,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
race ended within 2 hours, then, which is also surprising. Like everything to like
It's
just
true
kind of
because
happened.
I've never seen a wet race that has ended with zero cars retiring, and I feel like I've got to the end of the Belgian Grand Prix, and still never seen a wet race where all 20 drivers finished a race.
Made it. That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, that
Well, you
was
can thank the race director for that, but not sure you're going to do that today.
well. I think that's one of the topics that we're going to have to talk about. But I thought, in order of importance, we'll probably chat about the McLaren boys. As interesting as that is to everybody, I can see how everyone what. Um, yeah. Uh, Sorry, I just read
It
Macon's
is not
comment that The
interesting.
Quiet Man was a John Wayne movie, Joss. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, very good. I'm a quiet man. That's true.
But you know what? I mean, we're not going to get into Nico later, are we? Right?
I mean, we can do if you want to, but I thought what
I mean, no,
we
no, no.
should.
But I mean, like it is just like yeah. Go
I
ahead.
mean, we
Sorry.
probably should attend to some business. So we'll have a little chat about the McLaren boys. We're probably going to have a chat about the wet weather racing that did or did not happen at the Spa track over the course of this weekend, and we will probably, I hope, get into some of the other teams. We'll get into a little bit of Ferrari, their upgrade, what we thought of it, and also I thought that there's probably a bit of a conversation to be had about the suitability of tracks like Spa going forward in air quotes modern F1. But I don't know. Maybe if we've got time, it's something that I'd be quite interested to get into. But first of all, I do want to comment on Michael Delorso's comment. So disappointing when the World Drivers' Championship is contested by not the best drivers. At least, like last year, it can be great when the elite driver is fighting a better car. What do you have to say to that, Ammar?
That's a big one to unpack, right? Because and this is not Michael's exact sentiment, but what I've read over and over again is Lewis Hamilton fans, Charles Leclerc fans, Max Verstappen fans, essentially, and to some extent, George Russell fans saying essentially some form of, oh gosh, I wish it was one of these four or three, depending on where your, I guess your allegiances lie, right? And this would have been such a cracking competition. And while I would love to see Ferrari succeed and Charles Leclerc succeed, so there's my bias, right? I would love. I mean, there are many times week in and out for the last 5 years that I've said, "Oh gosh, just give him a car that he can kind of race with." A, everyone can say that, and B, it's different. Everyone sort of has their shot at it, right? I mean, Max was dominating for in 23 and to some extent in 24, right? And 22 also, right? And that is what it is. And we all have to first and foremost, Shez, just accept the fact that this is going to be a McLaren only competition. I know it's stating the obvious. I know you're going to look at me and say, wow, geez, I knew that. Tell me something I didn't know. But the reality is that this is it. I mean, if you were waiting for Ferrari to show something, we'll talk about that later. They didn't really show that. So it's pretty much done and dusted. Max is not in it. It's all done there. So this is what you're going to get. So we cannot therefore then start complaining about, oh, I wish it could be X or Y or Z or Charles or Max that has this car and all that. That's just where it is. Like it's not Lando's fault and Oscar's fault that McLaren built a rocket ship essentially that no one can compete with. Like that's not their fault. So I'm not going to hold it against them. That's my sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but I think that age-old question of wouldn't it be nice if somebody from the back of the grid or someone from the midfield that doesn't do a lot of winning suddenly gets thrust into a world championship battle, what would that look like? How would we feel about it? That's kind of been answered, hasn't it? Because look, Formula One isn't just about performance. I mean, as much as we bang on about how cool it is to see different people up there and showing their talents and stuff, actually, when the protagonists are not that compelling, it's difficult to get massively engaged in it, and maybe it's just because we don't know these guys that well, because it's the first time we get to see them properly. They're immediately in a championship battle with none of our usual with none of the usual suspects up there battling out with them, and maybe that's a bit of an image problem. And it highlights how important it is for Formula One to have its stars, to have its standouts, those drivers that transcend the sport, and they are drivers like Max and Lewis and Fernando, and Charles and George as well. When they are really performing, they're a joy to watch, and I think people respond to that. Just look at how much of a response Leclerc got last season when he won at Monza and when he won at Monaco. I just don't see the same sort of Alex Jacques kind of commentary at the end of the race. That's a lack of personality,
then, right?
Yeah,
it's a lack of personality.
And it's not a prerequisite for a Formula One driver to have a glittering personality, but that's not what they're trained to do. And often, I think, especially with Oscar, he has been trained by Mark Webber to be as sort of not monosyllabic, but as sort of calm and collected as he possibly can be, to not give anything away. Because I think that kind of having your emotions on show all the time was something that didn't really work out for Mark. And I think it's something that he has then tried to instill in his driver. Just don't show your emotion. And unfortunately, the problem with that is that it then means that it's just not as engaging as I think we would.
Shez, but then can we take
that's just me. Yeah.
And so can we take a little bit of responsibility for that in the reaction community, which includes you and I as fans and podcasters, and but also I would say the mainstream media broadcasters is perhaps there's a little bit of accountability there in not positioning these drivers in a way that they are exciting too. I mean, look, and if you didn't know that up until now, you do now know that these are the two drivers that we're going to have to live with for the next 11 races. And Shez, in any other season where I tell you we don't know who the champion is going to be, why isn't the focus on those two drivers, and why aren't they not exciting? So I guess the question is, what are we not doing in terms of being able to talk about? Because what you just said about Oscar actually kind of aligns, right? Oscar is quiet, stoic, doesn't let anything out, but Lando, on the other hand, doesn't mind being self-deprecating, doesn't mind wearing his heart on his sleeve, doesn't mind being, I guess, what you, as we always draw the contrast, right? Being quicker but more mistake prone. On the other hand, does Oscar have the out and out pace? Probably not, but more consistent, more kind of, out there and making opportunistic when the time comes. So you have the elements of what it takes to create an exciting buzz
Yeah,
between the
Amar,
top two
Amar,
drivers, Shez.
I think the problem is when you look at this whole thing on paper, yes, it should be very exciting, but the
So
problem is,
why isn't it?
but if you want to know my opinion on this, my thought is that it's because they are operating in a vacuum. They're not being tested against the very best on the grid. If you had a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton in there as an actual championship
Different teams?
protagonist, no, not about different teams, different drivers that have been there and done it and have been tested and proven, and we know what they're like in front of a camera. If those drivers are in there as well, I think it would be a much more interesting championship. I think Michael's just brought up 2012. It was interesting that season because, if you just had a championship battle, let's say between Felipe Massa that season, driving in the same way that Fernando was, versus Sebastian Vettel, for example, at that time, I don't think it would have been as interesting as the needle you get between Fernando and Seb. This seems a bit sterile, and
It's not the animosity.
you
Yeah.
need a little bit of needle from somebody else, whether that's between the two drivers or someone outside. Anyway,
This is also, by the way, Shez, the new generation of drivers. I mean, look, I agree
I
with
don't.
you,
I don't think
and
that. I don't think
I'm not
they're
saying,
alone
but
in
this
that. I
is what
think
they
you've
are.
got George and you've got Charles, and you've still got Max there. They are the current and the new generation of driver. It's
What
just
is
that
not
it's
appealing
just
about
that it's just that
Lando? What
Lando
is
and,
not appealing?
and Oscar are there at the moment. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. But I'm not going to get into that right now because I think we should at least try and segue into the race.
Yes, let's
And,
do
and I
that.
think and I think at least some of what we've said feeds into how this race has been received. Amar, your initial thoughts. How did you feel coming out of that race? Was it one you enjoyed, or were you, and I'm talking about once the race actually got started. We'll talk about the delay in a minute. But what were
Yeah,
your
I
feelings about the race?
mean, look, as the resident Ferrari fan and Charles Leclerc fan, I was very interested in what was happening there because I kept thinking to myself that P3 was going to be out of our hands. That it was just going to be a moment of time that Max would sort of catch Leclerc, but that didn't ever happen. We seem to do a very good job in well, Ferrari's done great with pit stops in general, but the sort of the strategic calls and everything. You had enough elements there for them to trip themselves up, and but what they also did with Lewis on the flip side was a good one. Although I'd argue there was really nothing to lose when you're out in Q1 anyway. So at that point, there was low stakes attached. So I would say the race in general, Shez, was not an interesting one unless you had a proverbial horse in the race. Either if you're a fan of Lando or Oscar, or maybe you're a Max fan, you were in it. But to be honest, Max on Sunday in that Red Bull didn't really look anywhere competitive. Maybe he would have a P3, but still be lonely there. So I mean, this is why I keep kind of going back to is why is it not interesting when you have two drivers up front that were at that point split by 8 points, now 16, right? So yeah, I mean, it was not a good race for a track that I personally love. It's on my wish list of tracks to attend. I was sad to hear that it's going to not be a regular on the calendar, but I mean, this is possibly the worst race from a entertainment standpoint that Spa could have had. And I'm not sure I fully place blame on the track. To be honest, I've seen a lot of people talk about that, but that's kind of how it was. It was, by the way, midfield was fun. I mean, Alex Albon, there was a lot happening. There's a lot of good stuff behind the scenes. I mean, Even Sonoda actually had a pretty decent race up until Red Bull made that error. So
Okay, I quite liked the race. I quite enjoyed it.
yeah,
I was
yeah, I can see
actually
why.
not
Yeah.
not I wasn't like edge of my seat, like loving it, but you know what? I had my multi-viewer. I had my track map, and but it was one of those races where I was looking at my screens more than I was looking at the TV. But you know what? I actually enjoyed it. Like I thought that kind of cat and mouse, the fact that you had the two drivers vying for a race win on different strategies, um, was actually quite engaging. Because okay, like at the end of it, like Oscar like killed it by sort of pulling out a little bit of a gap right at the end. And we'll talk about Lando in a minute, but Oscar probably had a bit of pace in hand, but we didn't know that as we were sitting there watching it, and that gap kept coming down. It was like 4 seconds. You're like, oh my god, is Lando going to do it? Has he got enough laps? Is he going to mount a challenge? And he's on a different tyre, and we know that Oscar's tyres might wear out. You've seen what's happened further down the grid with other drivers. So is there a little bit of tension? Could something happen? I enjoyed it. I actually quite liked having that, I'm at least semi an Oscar fan. I really like Oscar Piastri. I like how he conducts himself on track. So for me, I had at least some skin in the game. I quite enjoyed watching Oscar sort of do his thing, and having Lando hunt him down added that jeopardy. So I quite enjoyed it. But I do understand, like, if you're sitting there as a Formula One cynic going, well, I always knew that Oscar had a bit in hand. He was always going to pull away, wasn't he? But yeah, sure, maybe, that's true. But, it wasn't a completely done deal. And there was enough in there to think that maybe Lando had something on him. But ultimately, the reason that I put up the thumbnail that I did, not just to annoy you, Ammar, is talk about, could Lando have done it? And more interesting, I think, if you had a different driver in that situation, in that chasing scenario, could they have done a better job? I think I know what you're going to say, but go for it.
Could they have done a better job? Possibly. Could they have overtaken Oscar? Probably not. I mean, I saw Charles not being able to do that with Oscar in Baku. So if your immediate answer is going to be, well, Charles would have been better, like let's just say that as an example, right? There you go. Once you're ahead, you're in clean air with these cars, and the amount of dirty air they put behind you, like Shez, I'm with you. I was intrigued about the idea of being on sort of offset strategy, but the only elixir to that would have been if the hard tire was going to be that much better than the medium that we had no earthly idea about, or if the medium was going to fall off dramatically at some point that, again, no one knew about because there had not been that kind of running. It hadn't been that kind of weekend. It had rained, yada, yada, yada. Sprint race weekend. There were so many factors where it would have just had to be a bit of an, a lottery kind of
But
situation.
Amar,
with that
let's
happening,
go
though,
even
right?
further back than that, because I'm not just talking about the chase on hard tires. What about at the beginning? Because Lando started on
At
pole.
the beginning,
Lando started on pole, and it was a rolling start, which should really have given Lando, all of the advantage, and yet he got overtaken.
yeah, I saw that too. But I mean, look, there were a couple of things. Look, first, he did have a wheel spin twice, right? Out of turn one, right? That was not once but twice. It did happen, right? Wet conditions. Let's just do that. Okay. All right. We got to put everything on the table. By the way, in dry conditions, guess what happened 24 hours ago in the sprint race? So I'll just leave that there. The same thing happened to Lando that happened to Oscar before. I didn't see anyone bring up this as an analogy that they are now. I mean,
Lando
that just
did.
happened.
Lando did.
Huh?
Lando did. Lando brought that
What do you
up.
mean?
He brought it up in the post race.
Yeah, but I mean that's what I'm saying. But that's a fact, right? That happened to Oscar, right? Right at the in the sprint race, right? In drier conditions, where I argue it would have been much more easier to get away from Max. Do that. We can't allow our inbuilt biases to just come out and say, if you're a Lando bottler community person, flag holder, card holder, whatever, then that's what you're going to say, because that is, to me, that's oversimplification, and I'd argue quite lazy. Am I saying that Lando is the greatest thing since Michael Schumacher? No, I'm not saying that. At the same time, we have to keep things in perspective. Oscar got by Max. He said at the end of the sprint race, well, gosh, I kind of wish I hadn't been P1, right? It's the same thing that happened. He raised voice to it too. So I don't get the idea of bottling. Like, I get it. Like, if you were going back to Monza 24, you want to say that, fine, fair enough. Then maybe go back to Imola this year and use the same for the other guy too.
Yeah,
I think that there's an inbuilt
I think
bias
Oscar.
and a hatred towards Lando that sort of goes to it. And this is coming, by the way, I'm not the Lando fan, right? I just got done saying Ferrari, Leclerc, Hamilton. So I'm telling you, as a neutral observer, I did not see. I mean, I kind of kept telling myself the same thing. Is P1 worth it? Like, what's the point of it?
What I would say here is, look, there was a slight difference in the two scenarios, right? The first one is that in the sprint, Max had a low downforce setup, so it did mean that however well Oscar came out of La Source, that Max was going to be on him. He had a higher end of straight speed, but
Agreed.
Lando didn't have that difference, right? They were essentially on a very similar
The
setup,
same car.
right? And
Agreed.
And Lando, by his own admission, had a poor final corner,
Yes.
had a poor
It's raining.
bus.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Oscar,
it was rainy conditions.
correct, but it was raining.
Okay, but again,
Ammar,
but
you're gonna have
this
to let
is
me
the
finish my
beauty of
sentence.
being
You're gonna have to let me finish my sentence. They all had
Okay, go ahead.
they all had exactly the same. So they all had the same conditions, but Oscar didn't have a bad bus stop chicane. And then on top of that, Lando had a poor first corner, had a poor La Source, despite being in control of the pack, and Oscar didn't. And that's essentially what put him into the position. And there was more than that as well. If you have a listen to the Races podcast that came out today, Scott Mitchell actually breaks down what the two drivers did up Eau Rouge. So Lando just went full pelt through Eau Rouge and up Radion and had to have a little lift at the top of the hill, whereas Oscar did the Lewis Max thing where he lifts as on the approach to Eau Rouge. So it means that actually he's gunning up the hill. Why are you laughing? I don't
love
understand.
you put that in. Oh, I mean, the Lewis Max thing was there to just bring something. I get it. Come on.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying anything. I'm just smiling.
But it worked for him.
Yeah,
right?
no, of course. Only Lewis and Max do that. You're right. Fair enough.
All right, Fernando does it too. But anyway, so there was a lot more, I think, that Lando didn't do that allowed Oscar to get into his slipstream, where Oscar was yes, he got overtaken, but it wasn't. I don't think we're comparing apples with apples in that scenario. There was a lot said about the battery pack. I know you're going to bring this up as well, but I do feel like it came up as
it's
a
not me
bit,
saying that.
yeah,
Zach Brown said it,
but Zach Brown is sitting there
Zach
as
said it.
usual,
This is a
defending
fact.
his driver because he loves it.
Oh,
he
come
loves
on.
defending Lando because he feels like he has to.
So that is
a lot.
So we should not allow that because
No, I'm not saying
it's a fact, but it's not
I
a fact.
mean,
is that what?
I am
but
just
my-
taking
my-
it with a
my point-
bit of a pinch of salt. But anyway, go on.
Well, I'm gonna take it with a sip of water with this bottle, right? Because the idea again is we're going with the premise that this is being bottled some way. And it doesn't have to be that. My argument isn't that Lando did everything right. My argument isn't that Oscar did everything wrong on Saturday. My argument is that these things are going to happen. When there are competitors that are matched equally, someone's going to get the other one at another point. It can just be that. Why do we have to fly to extremes? That's all.
And then more egregious was what happened when the hard tires were on and Lando was chasing. Three times we caught him either going off track or locking up. He locked up twice.
Yeah, those hard tires were difficult to drive with. I mean, we know that.
Were they?
And that was the only thing that we could
They
do.
were-
I mean, again, look, you're I mean, I don't want to again paint myself as a Lando defender, but again, I think
feel
there's
like
a
you're having
good
to.
reason for it. Look,
What was the reason?
We knew, I know I'm having to. We knew that once the overtake was done, that was game over, right? Because with the way McLaren do pit stops and you know the lead driver gets a choice and rainy conditions. Now I could argue if you really wanted to throw something in there, McLaren could have orchestrated a double stop and could have given Lando a chance. And maybe towards the end of the race, we could have seen who the faster driver is on equal tires.
Can we talk about that? So again, Hughesy of Mark Hughes fame, he did explain this, and I think it kind of makes sense that what had happened was Oscar, being in front, came in first, went onto the medium tyres, because I think they'd already decided pre-race that if they went onto slicks, it would be onto the medium. But Lando was given the offer, do you want to go onto the hards? He said yes. I didn't have them ready for him in the pit lane because they were already committed to giving mediums in the first place.
Sure.
So rather than stacking him, they had to send him round once more. And his thought process and the thought process from Will Joseph on the pit wall was, okay, if we stick him on the hard, then yes, he might have a bigger gap when he comes out of the pit lane initially, and he did. He was 8 seconds behind. But actually, that tyre will be more durable, and perhaps Oscar might need to come in for a second stop at some point. I don't think they were necessarily expecting that, but they were expecting that the hard tyre being more durable, they're gambling that it would be faster. And it was faster on average across that stint. It's just that Lando had those three... No, I don't think so, because I think if you were to give that 1.2 seconds back, then Lando would have been a damn sight closer than what he was. I'm not saying he would have overtaken Oscar, but I think it would have been much more interesting towards the end of the race.
But,
and to your point about, look, the hard tyre is more difficult to drive. The fact that his engineer was having to coach him so often about, and like detailed notes on like how he needs to drive those tires.
God forbid.
Well, I mean, you could say God forbid, but none of the other drivers at the top end. Exactly, because and you're telling me that if it wasn't happening
in the mainstream,
you're telling me that if it didn't happen to Oscar, they wouldn't have played it out as well. Of course they would have.
Yes, I'm telling you, they wouldn't have played it out
because
as well.
the exchanges that we heard between Oscar and his race engineer were much more, Oscar, what do you think of this? How are the tyres? Oscar's like, yeah, they're fine. We'll keep going. And he wasn't making those mistakes. So there never seemed to be a reason.
It is easier to not make mistakes when you're leading up front. You're in clean air. Everything works better. You know that. It's apples and oranges.
All I'm going to say is if you have Max Verstappen chasing him, which we have seen.
God forbid he gets coached by his engineer. I mean, good God, it would be nice for the Ferrari guys to get some of that.
I don't mind that.
Because they don't get any of that.
I don't mind that.
I get it.
I don't mind it.
But you brought it up as if it was the worst thing.
It's always in response to him making mistakes. It's a reaction
to
Lando making a mistake. But
what?
Yeah, because Oscar doesn't make those mistakes. That's what.
Oh yes, of course.
Wait, did he make a mistake?
No.
How many mistakes did he make? Tell me.
Not in this race, but we can go back other races. Should have been
when?
Penalized twice in last race. I mean, there's that. I mean, you can't.
Why
should
he be penalized twice?
Well, that's not my thing. Go back and see the race did the same article on that where they said Oscar could have been penalized twice, not one time. When the second time he got penalized, the 10 seconds, it could have been twice actually. But that's neither here nor there, Shez. My point, again, I don't want this to be me dunking on Oscar for some reason because I didn't
13 races.
Okay, one mistake, fine. Okay, so what? Okay, so he makes mistakes, and so what? And so what? He doesn't deserve to race. Like, what do you want to do? You want him to send him to Williams? Like, what?
I'm not saying that.
I don't get. He got what he deserved.
You're making a mockery of the argument, but there is.
I'm not making a mockery. I'm saying that he deserved what he got.
There is an argument to be made here that Lando Norris makes mistakes in crunch moments, and the fact that and this is something that has been recognised by his pit wall, which is why they coach him as hard as they do. And this race, I would say, was a microcosm of that. That when he is pushing hard, the consistency goes a little bit and he will make mistakes. And this isn't just about because he was chasing. Look at Singapore last year when he had a healthy lead and still nearly put it in the wall twice. So this is something that happens to Lando Norris on a regular basis. And it's something that hasn't improved since last season.
I mean,
and if you, unless you think that's not a problem, that drivers...
I didn't say it's not a problem, but I'm also saying
that I would say that it has had a tangible effect on his championship challenge this season. He is now 16 points behind his teammate.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, he was 22 points down or something like that, 24, and then he came back. And look, if he doesn't win it, he knows I don't need to defend him at all because he has told you that he didn't do a good enough job. Again, I'm not sitting up here saying, okay, give Lando the championship or anything. I'm just saying that we do not have to do this extreme thing of he bottled it. That's all I said. I didn't say that he should definitely
It's
deserve to
just a
win or
term.
anything like that. No,
Bottled it is
that's
just
it. That's it.
it's just a term
It's just a
that I
term.
have
So
used,
that's,
but
but that's fine.
the
I would just
evidence on
say that.
track is that he made mistakes when he was under
But
pressure.
Ches, you don't even have to worry about that argument because he is behind Oscar. So he is exactly where he should be based on his performance. And if he's gonna want to overtake Oscar and build a lead, he's gonna have to correct those mistakes. Fair enough. What else is there to talk about with that? Like
Okay.
really, there's nothing.
Okay, I mean, this is a narrative that will continue throughout the entire season.
We will keep this active, no?
I think you guys would all be much more disengaged if we both agreed. But
Yeah, let's go.
let's talk about the decisions by the race director. So what did you think? Did they take too long? Were you frustrated, banging the table? They should have got started a bit
No,
earlier.
no,
What do you
no.
reckon?
So pro tip here. If you guys try not to watch it live, like this is where it helps a lot. Like I just told you at the beginning, there is beauty in not watching it live, right? Because when you watch it later on tape delay or whatever it is on demand these days, right? When I opened the video, I knew that it said 2 hours and 59 minutes. I was like, oh God, yes, there is a delay here. I already knew that. So pro tip, do not try to watch it live. I mean, do watch it live if you want to. That's fine. Yeah, I think Shez, there was a delay, right? And I'm not sure. So I feel a couple different ways about this, Shez, because I think the conventional thinking is that the race could have started maybe 30 minutes before it actually did. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And it would have been nice to see a sort of a wet, drying race, right? And we did kind of get a little bit of a glimpse of that, but it felt like we could have started earlier. The problem, Shez, and I would say is two things. One, I read that Rui Marquez, the race director, had told the drivers last weekend, or I guess in the aftermath of the British Grand Prix, that he would be taking a step like this if the conditions were the way they were. So my argument to those of you that are saying, well, the teams that set up for a wet race got screwed was like, well, actually, there was warning about that, right? And I get it. You might still have wanted to take the gamble and set up for a wet race. Cool, fair enough. So that's number one. I think there was enough warning there for the drivers and by extension the teams to know that this sort of thing could happen. Number two, Shaz, and I would say this is just related to Spa, man. There's been such shitty stuff happening. I mean, shitty is also not the right word for it. It's way worse than that. We've seen deaths, we've seen terrible accidents, we've seen all kinds of things in the wet where I feel like normally I do not want to give the FIA a pass on this, but this is kind of the race that I would give them a pass and say, look, if they were being overcautious, that's only because we didn't want to see something really, really bad happen, which has happened at Eau Rouge of all places, and it has been deadly. I mean, that's just the fact, right? So I guess the counter to that is that, well, should we be racing there or not? And that's a different discussion that we can have. But I think in terms of making the decision, yeah, they could have made it marginally earlier, but I can also see why they were being cautious.
Yeah, I'm fully with you on this as well. Like, yeah. I think maybe the safety car at the end was out one lap too long, but ultimately we're not the ones sort of sitting in the car, and this is one of those times where it isn't about skills. So when I heard Max say, if you can't see, then just lift. I hope he was just saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, because I don't think that's fair, especially after what happened between Isaac and Kimi Antonelli at the British Grand Prix. I mean, literally, I don't care if you're Juan Manuel Fangio or Gaston Mazzacane. Like, if you cannot see where you're going, and you cannot see the car in front of you, and you have no cues, you are going to have an accident, and there's nothing that you can do that's in your control. And there is something, I think, about the current rule set that makes that more likely. Now, people will, every time this happens, like without fail, like this is Twitter bingo, that as soon as there's a wet race and there's a little bit of a delay in getting the race started, you'll have a clip of someone doing the Robert Kubica, Felipe Massa fight between themselves at the 2007 Japanese Grand Prix, right? But even then, if you look at the speeds they're going at, and you look at actually how much water those tyres are displacing, it's like an order of magnitude different in 2025. Like the most brought out stat that came out across all tech pages and feeds was that the wet tyre displaces 85 litres per second of water. It's a huge amount of water. But just imagine what that actually looks like. And the Inter's not miles off that. It's a huge amount. And these ground effect cars were designed to throw their turbulent air over the top of the car following them. That was baked into their design, because what the FIA wanted was that the turbulent air would go over the car behind and therefore not affect the aerodynamics of that car, allowing that car to follow closer. But the problem with that is in a wet race, the air is now water, and that water is being thrown up high up into the air, and it hangs there. It doesn't come down quickly. It is in the air, it's in the trees, it's everywhere, and that's then the wall of spray that the driver sees. And even when it looks, as Martin Brundle constantly says in the commentary, when we're looking at it, we are looking down on it through the heli cam, the drone cam, even the onboard T cam. You're looking down on that spray. Whereas as soon as you now get the visor cam that Pierre Gasly was wearing during this weekend, that view that we got on board of him, man, when they're gunning up the Kemmel Straight and they're about to brake late for Les Combes, and that was under the safety car, and you can't see anything. Nah, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's right. And to say that drivers who are sitting there going, we want a red flag for this, are sort of wimpy or shouldn't be on the grid, I think is just it's a bit disgraceful.
It is a bit, but then also, what do you do if you have an accident now? And that's a bad one. You're gonna have a red flag. You're gonna have a delay anyway, right? So, what difference does it actually make? So, I think this is a discussion about the cars itself. Again, ironically, this is a little bit like Monaco, right? But for different reasons. Like, it is not the track necessarily as much as it is about the cars. So, I don't know. I don't know how you solve these. I mean, there's a part of me that feels like it is what it is. I mean, and I suppose part of the frustration is that you were waiting for a good 55, 58 minutes before you saw any action. So I guess there's something about that as well that probably adds to the frustration, I suppose. But again, if you go out there, you start racing a little too early and there's a bad accident, now we're having a different discussion again. We're going to be talking about, well, FIA is not about safety or yada, yada, yada. Something or the other will happen. Even running behind safety cars, we saw, was it Isaac Hadjar that spun, and it was in Melbourne, right? Like, those kind of things would still happen, and you don't want to see them. I mean, we got 20 cars to finish the race, Shez. Like, that's amazing. And 4 of them started in the pit lane. So what do you have to say? I mean, in a way, I think it's okay.
Slipstream Merchants put up a good comment. He said the solution is putting a guard on the diffuser that keeps the spray low. But that is something that has been trialed, hasn't it? So the FIA trialed a bunch of guards. And they didn't work. They didn't do the thing that they were trying to do. And I think I come back to the point that these cars are set up, designed by concept to throw air and by extension water high up into the air. Next season's cars won't do that quite as much because they're not running as low to the ground. They don't rely on these deep Venturis and massive diffusers to throw air up into the air. And so although there might be a little bit of a penalty in terms of the turbulent air affecting the car behind, although they have mechanisms to limit that anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute, actually the spray shouldn't be thrown up quite as high, and maybe the visibility next season will be better, and perhaps we'll get back to having better races in the wet. But one of the other reasons is the silly wet tyre, which it doesn't have a broad enough repertoire to give the drivers confidence that they can push on it in slightly changing conditions, i.e. you can drive it when it's super wet, but in that condition you can't see anything, so you're going to bring out the safety car anyway, so what's the point? As soon as the safety car comes in, because it's a bit drier, the wet tyre, the full wet that is, just doesn't function. So you're going to try and put your drivers on an Inter, and then the Inter isn't quite... And the race control know that, so they just keep playing until the track is dry enough for the Inters, and at that point you're already thinking about a slicks. it's a vicious cycle, I think, and I don't think there's an easy solve for it, and I don't think blaming the FIA and saying, as one person has sort of commented on it, that why is there not a set protocol for this? Well, I mean, you can't. Silverstone, for example,
every condition is different.
Exactly, Silverstone's a flat track with hardly any elevation change, whereas Spa has probably Spa has probably the most dangerous corner still in Formula One right now. The scenarios aren't the same. So to paint every track exactly the same, especially after we had what we had in Silverstone, I think is unfair.
I think we also just have to accept that there are going to be some tracks with their characteristics, with the way these cars are, with weather conditions, all of these variables out there, there's some things you just cannot finagle your way out of. Like, there's just not something you can do for every single scenario. We're just going to get one of these, if you really want to call it a dud of a race, which I've seen the overwhelming emotion be, although I didn't think that it went that far. But fair enough, if you want to just do that's okay. But you're just going to get this, and that's why there are 24 races on the calendar, right? That's just it. So yeah, maybe there's when is it? Spa is not here next year, no? Is it the year after? I think 26, and then we're skipping.
Oh
right?
Man,
something like that.
This is me not knowing the calendar. Honestly, this is just standard. I don't even know when I'm supposed to.
Well, you're going to be in Hungary next week. Like,
am I? I forgot. I think. Okay, let's move on quickly.
Man, I was really hoping you would take some T-shirts for some folks that
there will probably be T-shirts, but they're not going to be tired T-shirts. Maybe they should be, but I don't have any. But just come say hello to me if you're there. If you're there, me and Baxter are both going to be there. Come say what up. All right, let's move on because we are definitely running out of time. Can we quickly have a word about your team, Ferrari? Thoughts, commiserations, congratulations.
Oof, just my team, not yours, huh?
I mean, I've got some chat about Lewis, but we can come to that in a second. What were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair play. I mean, I think that, and I told you this a couple of weeks ago, Shez, that Ferrari would ace the second part of the season and will firmly be second in the constructors. And that's that's the most weirdest, painful sort of place to be in as a Ferrari fan. It's the kind of purgatory that I would wish upon no one, right? You'd be neither bad enough to just be bad or not be good enough to be great. Like, so that's kind of where we're at. I fully expect this upgrade package to work very well and work well enough to beat everybody else, but not well enough to beat McLaren. And that's perfect. That is the perfect dismount on this Ferrari season. There you have it. I can't even be happy about a Charles Leclerc podium. I can't. What is possibly being? He finished 20 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, but I think there's some fun to be had, like watching the drivers perform. And Charles did a great job this weekend. He had it all hooked up, and he did really well in qualifying. Did really well in the race. Podium probably out was more than that car deserved. But he said he felt good about
Max behind, some good wheel to wheel.
It was good. It was good. And keeping a charging Max Verstappen behind you, I don't think is is something to be disregarded. But he had some good comments to say about the rear suspension, and I think he overall had a good race. I don't think he was particularly happy with finishing third, 20 seconds behind the McLarens, and that's good. Good. I'm glad that he's not happy. Lewis, I think, had a much more tricky weekend. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
What do you put the Q1 the Q1 eliminations down to? Like, what do you put it down to?
So SQ1, he had that. Like he didn't get a banker lap in because he had that mistake into Stavolo after Kimi Antonelli went off. Fred made a comment about it and said, he couldn't see. He was distracted by the dust. I don't know how much I believe that. Like, an elite driver should probably be able to deal with a bit of dust in front of them. Like, he had the moment even before he got into Stavolo. But the braking thing, Anthony Davidson sort of seemed to absolve him a little bit. I don't think that was a rear suspension problem. He has put it down to the fact that this is the first race where he's had new brake discs and pads from Brembo that are designed actually to give both drivers a bit more bite. But I think given that he's driven the previous brake setup for the entire season so far, when he for the first time in SQ1 really went for it. They locked alongside the engine braking, which he doesn't really like, and it locked the rear axle and spun him out. He referenced the fact that exactly the same thing happened to Charles Leclerc in FP1 in Canada, wrecking his chassis there and cracking it. And I guess maybe part of this could be put down to, like, maybe Lewis should be pushing a bit harder, pushing the limits a bit harder in the free practice sessions. But he only had one. He only had FP1, and then they're straight into sprint qualifying. So I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
What about the comment itself of kind of going back to the Canada reference? I mean,
it's not a lie. So
yeah.
I think with Lewis, it's one of those things where he quickly defends himself because there is a lot of criticism like thrown at him quite hard quite quickly, and maybe he feels it, and maybe that's what comes out. I don't know. I feel fairly neutral.
I would have hoped he wouldn't have said that. I mean, he could have just said. I mean, so then
I think you can.
Then what does that have to do with Q1 now? So there's that too.
Yeah. So the Q1 thing, he shouldn't have had a track limit. It's like the fact that he turned around and said like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and speak to the stewards. I'm sorry, mate, but like track limits is track limits, isn't it? And even then he was 7th. Charles finished, third on the grid, out qualifying Max Verstappen by 3,000. So. Yeah, probably should have done better in qualifying, and maybe he's getting used to this new brake setup. I don't know, whatever. I'm hoping that in Hungary things are going to be a bit better. I hear it's going to be a wet race, so yeah, things could be interesting.
You're going to be there for 3 hours.
I am going to bring my poncho, and I can't fast forward the red flag. So anyway, we'll see.
No, take some bottles with you. You can fill up water.
Yeah, we'll see. The more I see though of Lewis this season, this feels much more like a bedding in season. And yeah, he seems down on himself. I don't know. Like everybody that's gone to a new team this season that has gone from another that is going to a team with an established driver, and that's just Carlos Sainz, has struggled. Again in Spa, Carlos struggled, and Alex put in a blinder of a race. So
amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not just Lewis that this is happening to. So to kind of point him out and single him out, I think is disingenuous. But anyway, there it is. I'm always going to do that. You know that. Our viewers know that. Yeah. And
the reality
I'm aware of my biases here, but. That's how I see it.
No, but I think it's fair to have. There's nothing wrong with having biases, by the way. And you can say Charles felt comfortable enough because he was the incumbent. He had been there, and Lewis would have a betting in period. Like they're doing exactly what they should have done, but 12 races later. That's the problem. It's not that they're not able to ace it. It's that it's too late now. It's over.
Yeah, and this is the thing that Lewis was actually getting closer. That's why there is a bit of a belief that actually what he was saying is true, because in the last 5 races he's out qualified Charles 4 times and has been getting closer in terms of outright pace. So there seemed to be something coming, and I'm hoping that this new brake pad and material will allow him actually to brake more like he likes to brake, and having a rear under behind him that doesn't need that extreme skinny setup that gives him such a lively rear end that he unfortunately in this era of Formula 1 he doesn't get on with. Maybe he will have a better second half of the season. I wait with bated breath. But final thing, I really did want to talk about the suitability of Spa, but maybe we'll come back to that in a midweek session, which please come and listen to that. But what I do want to talk about is Yuki qualifying 7th on the grid, 0.3, 0.38 of a second behind Max Verstappen. Tell me thoughts.
That is some amazing stuff. No, amazing. I mean, Laura Mekias gets there. He's like, nope, we're not saving another floor for Max. Like, go ahead and put it on Yuki's car, and boom, would you know it, P7. And also, if I'm correct, he was 300ths within Max, right? So even that, I mean, forget the P7 for a second. He was right up there. And to be fair to Yuki, Red Bull messed up the pit, calling him in. They kept him out 1 lap too long. Had they not done that, he would have been definitely in point scoring position. It maybe even arguably, in P5, P6, you could say. I mean, look, I love the story behind, and for me, Shez, I told you this as soon as I saw the Yuki P7 and the Laura Mekies effect is, I think this is about to get more fascinating, right? Because if you're Christian Horner and you're seeing this happen, it's like this is kind of the worst case that you want to see happen, right? At least on Saturday. Sunday changed it, but on Saturday it's like, oh wow, okay, so this is what's happening. And so we have got a lot of questions to ask, and it's too soon. Let's not overreact at this point, but let's see how Yuki does these next 3, 4, 5 races. If there is a market improvement and he is within range of Max,
yeah,
now all conversations are open.
I'll agree with you. Association is not causation, but it does seem pretty suspicious that as soon as Yuki gets the stockpiled floor upgrade, suddenly he's within
right there.
He's in Q3, and there were reasons for that. The reason that he was behind was because he had that crash in Imola.
Sure.
And
okay, but
I know what you're going to say, and I agree.
Imola was the race for.
I definitely agree with you. But Red Bull's answer was, look, we had a spare. We were prioritizing Max. It was Yuki that had caused the crash in the first place. So did we want to risk it on him? Well, it turns out that Laurent Mekies, the guy that has worked with Yuki at Racing Bulls, the guy that was had so many superlatives to throw at Yuki last season when he went to when he was chosen not to go to Red Bull. It's just nice to see somebody who is in Yuki's corner, who is in the corner of the second driver, and Laurent Mekies made his presence felt immediately, like straight away. There he is. Doing the thing for his second driver. I like it. And I think for Yuki, amongst all this other nonsense that's going on, having that little connection with his team principal, I think is special, and it makes me happy to see it.
Well, I mean, this is also, I mean, again, the next few races will tell us a little bit more about this, right? But where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So we have a little bit of smoke here, right? And it all comes down to, was Yuki being given a fair chance, right? And you could probably say that about Liam Lawson.
Has anyone in that second? Has anyone in that second season?
This is very revealing because Laura gets in, and within 24 hours, it's like boom. It's like, oh, sorry, but that's going to be fascinating. By the way, just speaking of Christian Horner, what do you think he texted Nico after he saw the clip of Nico and Jos? Right? What I mean, I think there's like plenty of F-bombs in there, and it's like, there you go.
I'm sure he sent him I'm sure he sent him a gratuitous picture that cannot be shared on YouTube.
Oh God, you had to do that. That's amazing. I think he was the happiest guy. By the way, Sky, just bring Christian Horner back as an analyst. That would be pretty amazing. Just let him walk down the grid. That would be quite amazing. That is the best thing that Christian Horner can do. He's probably not going to want to be a team principal right in this moment.
I think he'll take a bit of time off, but I think Horner is wasted in the commentary box. I think he... Mate, because I think he has...
spill all kinds of secrets, man.
Yes, which I can't wait for the book to come out, but he still has stuff to prove as a team principal, I think, to himself more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think he would love to do that. But it will be interesting to see if this pattern continues with Yuki, because Spa wasn't a happy hunting ground for him, particularly last season. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Some upcoming tracks for him.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if things progress, and I'm all for it, because I would really love to see Yuki up there fighting for positions and points, and he'll probably be fighting with Lewis most weekends. And
well, maybe he's fighting for a seat too, right? So let's not forget that too. I mean, there's something of great consequence to him as much as there is to Red Bull. So I think it's in all of the Max drama, we haven't talked about what happens with Yuki and that second Red Bull seat. We almost kind of forgotten about it. So
sure. But like I said, having his previous team principal there, and somebody that clearly has a high regard for him is definitely going to be a good thing. I can see our chat hasn't moved on from Lando versus Oscar. It seems it is more interesting than I gave it credit for.
And you thought it was a dull topic.
Clearly, it is not. People have got a lot to say.
Do I need? Is the bottle making a comeback in the comments? Should I take a sip?
Yeah. There it is. Oh, too much branding.
Too much.
All
Can't
right.
even do the bottle.
Right. So look, we're going to Hungary next. I think that Hungary is definitely one of the tracks that since we've been in the turbo hybrid era has been transformed from a track that was like the Monaco without the buildings to now being actually I think one of the better races.
Pretty fun, yeah.
Yes, it's good. You get a lot of action. Who's going to win?
I think Lando's going to win. He's going to win outright, and then we're going to be back in the same place saying, "Oh, look, everything was easy. He led, and blah blah blah. Nothing happened." That's what's going to happen. That's pretty much because this is how I'm scripting the rest of the season, right? Every time Lando will win, there will be no competition. Every time Oscar will win, it'll be because Lando made an error and Oscar did something great, because this is how we're going to write the script for this season. And I kid you not, the ultimate joke is going to be on all of you guys that keep saying Lando bottled, because he's going to win the championship. There are going to be guys like me crying that Leclerc doesn't get one. The George Russellites will be crying, and we're all going to be saying, I wish my driver had the car.
Well, Rosa Cabrera has said Hungary will be wet, guys. So I've heard. But I'm hoping that my mate Lewis will be sitting in the sim, analysing what he did in Spa between Belgium and Hungary. Stick it on pole.
The brakes off.
And and win the race. Although probably it's going to be Oscar. Anyway. On that note, I think it's probably time to call it. We've been chatting for 56 minutes. It's been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, both talking to each other and listening to us natter on. As usual, I think we've almost completely moved to just doing live streams, but I like it. I'm enjoying this. Please like, please subscribe, please leave us some comments. They're all turned on now, so you can comment straight away. We will respond to as many as we possibly can. We'll try and catch you with another midweek video. Hopefully we can talk about Spa and other track suitability for Formula One.
Grab your coffee.
Yeah, grab it. You're going to need it. And we will catch you guys in the next one.
Later, guys. Thanks for joining us.